Hello, I'm Dr. Hilary Jones, and according to the charity Allergy UK, some 45% of the British population suffer from some kind of food intolerance. Symptoms can range anywhere between things like eczema and migraines right through to bloating and fatigue. Symptoms can even influence your mood. In fact, we know that 1 in 4 people in Britain suffer with problems related to low mood or depression, and prescriptions for antidepressants have increased by a staggering 40% in the last 5 years. With that many people suffering from mood disturbance, I think it's imperative that they find out the root cause of their problem. Research by YorkTest Laboratories, leading experts in food intolerance testing, has shown that 97% of their customers reported mood problems as part of their food intolerance symptoms. Of those, 73% reported significant improvement once they'd altered their diet to remove the culprit foods that made them react. In addition to that, in a paper published in the journal Nutrition and Food Science, 81% of people reported significant improvements in their symptoms of low mood once they'd changed their diet to accommodate the changes recommended by YorkTest. Let's find out how Laura benefited. Laura, you suspected that the food that you were eating was upsetting you, both physically and psychologically, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I had both physical symptoms, so I had massive stomach bloating, and I swung between constipated and having diarrhoea, and it was just massively uncomfortable. But I was also feeling really down and anxious.
It must have got you down. It was every day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really played on my mind and just occupied me.
So what took you down the route of having a food intolerance test?
So when I started at my new job, I sat next to a nurse who'd had IBS and the food intolerance test, and she said how much it had benefited her life knowing which foods she was intolerant to that she could stay away from. So then I thought that was a really good idea, and I ordered a test.
Okay, and that came in the post.
Yes.
Were you daunted by the fact that you had to take a blood sample from yourself?
Not at all, because everything you need is in the pack, and it's just a tiny little finger prick and then a small amount of blood in a phial, and that's all they need to do the whole test.
How long was it before you got the results?
Only a couple of days. They rang me up more or less straight away. I was so shocked at the speed, and yeah, they said I had the antibodies and did I want a full test done to see the foods that I was intolerant to.
And at the end of the day, what were you intolerant to?
Dairy, wheat, yeast, gluten and eggs.
Wow. So you would have needed a bit of advice to try and avoid all those things in your diet.
Definitely. I had a consultation with a nutritionist from the YorkTest Lab, and she was fab, telling me some starter ideas of websites I could go to, and also direct things I could swap current foods for to help kickstart my swap of a diet.
Okay, and how long did it take before you saw some positive results?
About 3 weeks, just because it took me some time to get into the swing of things, but once I did it, it was brilliant.
Okay, and how are you now?
Yeah, so much better, because I only have pain really occasionally, and yeah, it's completely transformed how I can go about my life, and I'm so much more in control now.
Yeah, so that must have lifted your spirits and your mood as well.
Yes, massively. It's really good to be in control, and knowing that you don't have to always be anxious and worried about where the next toilet is and what you're going to do if you're in pain.
So having that test put a bit of a smile back on your face, which is nice. But is it something that you'd recommend to your friends? Definitely.
Anyone who thinks they might be affected by an intolerance, I'd say go for it, because it's only £10 to find out if you've got the antibodies in your blood. So for the sake of £10, and then you're not left worrying and anxious and not knowing what your symptoms are.
Dr. Jill Hart is Scientific Director at YorkTest.
When we're thinking about factors that affect our mood, we often think about what's happening within our brain. But scientists are now finding out more about the links between our gut and our brain, and finding out that factors that influence our gut can also affect our mental health. If you have a food intolerance, the food intolerance will be putting a level of stress on your gut. The level of stress will cause the gut to be damaged, and the gut may allow large food particles through into the bloodstream. These larger food particles can trigger an immune response. The immune response isn't an allergy, it's a food intolerance, and the immune response can be measured using an IgG blood test. Our gut is an amazing organ. It actually holds over 100 million different nerve cells, and interestingly 90% of the serotonin in our bodies are held in the gut, only around 2% in the brain. Serotonin is the hormone that gives us those feelings of happiness in life. It's linked to appetite and mood and sleep and all those things that are important in life, so that you can understand that factors that affect our serotonin will eventually affect the way that we feel and our mood. If you have a food intolerance, it's going to put stress on your gut. It's going to put stress on those nerve cells, on the serotonin levels in your gut. The food intolerance can also cause inflammation, and there are strong links between inflammation and depression.
So if you think the food that you're eating could be causing symptoms of a food intolerance, why not take that first step towards unmasking those hidden intolerances with YorkTest? For further information, go to www.yorktest.com, or you can telephone 0800 130 0580.